The Modern Community Foundation, together with the private sector, will hold a conference for marginalized communities, including the LGBT+ and persons with disabilities. The event is expected to look at ways to uplift those with the uncommon lived experiences by sharing their true stories. Joining us is Rennies BCD Travel CEO, that's Reece Oakes, and Managing Director at Modern Community Foundation, that's Revel Harris. Gentlemen, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. Maybe let me start with you, Reece. Speak to us about your involvement in the IME conference. Of course, you come from private business.
Yeah, thank you, Nhlanhla. Thank you to yourself and thank you to the viewers today. As Rennies BCD Travel, we foster a very diverse and inclusive workspace, and partnering with the LGBTQIAP+ community and organizations and disability foundations really pivots us in the market space in the private sector to enable the community at large.
So, Revel, let's speak more about what this conference is about. What can people expect?
So, Nhlanhla, this conference is about inclusion within the workplace. Yeah. It's about two particular marginalized communities, focusing on the LGBT community as well as persons with disabilities within the workplace, and how do corporates incorporate these two communities, how do corporates transform these two communities within the workplace to make sure that you create a safe and belonging space for both these communities, therefore making sure that you have a high retention rate of these two particular marginalized communities and they don't just leave because they feel discriminated against.
But why is it important for us to hear from, call it, these vulnerable communities as well, and for these discussions to start happening?
Number one, I would say Modern Community Foundation, as many other foundations and corporates, we should be the voice for the voiceless. There's too many people that are in different communities that are part of the LGBT community who doesn't have a voice, who's unable to speak the way I'm speaking at this point in time, who's unable to enjoy the freedom that I may have. In South Africa, you look at persons with disabilities, how many of these individuals do not find proper employment, and this is where the likes of Rennies BCD Travel comes in, and they assist these two particular communities by fostering them into the workplace and making sure they're able to contribute to the economy in a good and positive way.
Reece, let's get your reflections, especially when it comes to the workplace. Would you say you've observed challenges or even strides for workplace transformation?
Yeah, just speaking about industry at large and corporate at large, I think the larger barriers coming from leadership perspective. And I think we speak about people, and it's not only about the internal people, it's about the external people, which is speaking to the LGBTQI+ community. So I think leading with heart and soul and emotional and rational commitment, what we have observed is that training and development is critical in this space, and awareness. And I think the harder and the larger we do it, and as Madiba says, if we just populate with education, the world will be a greater place. So in my view, it's this really training and awareness, and that's what we do really great at Rennies BCD Travel. Just latching on to what Revel says from a learnership perspective, I think that's where we bridge the gap. I think any young individual, myself coming from a previously disadvantaged background, where do you get that experience? And this work-based experience is pretty critical for us.
Revel, looking at the stats, I mean, they do illustrate the discrimination faced by members of the LGBT+ community, and individuals and persons with disabilities in South Africa are also identified here. How does your organization, the Modern Community Foundation, then address these challenges? And what impact do you hope the conference will have in really promoting this inclusivity that we speak of?
So, Nhlanhla, we start with diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging workshops that we offer as Modern Community Foundation to different corps like Rennies BCD Travel, making sure that you train all staff, making sure that everybody understands that we're all human, first of all. Second of all, discrimination is not nice for anybody, so you wouldn't want to be discriminated. Why would you do that to anybody else based on their sexual orientation or them being differently abled, and we're hoping that this conference would grow and become as big as we wish, that the whole of South Africa and corporations would come together, and actively make change within their corporates for these two particular communities, and making sure that these individuals grow and have a progression plan for these particular individuals from these two communities, for them to understand that when you start at a learnership level, you have a progression plan that is outlined for you, and there is growth that can take place. So you're not just at an entry level for the rest of your life. You grow into a supervisory position. You grow into a managerial position. You eventually grow into an executive level where you are able, to make decisions and have leaders like Reece himself that leads with purpose from the top.
Reece, to latch on to that, and speaking to the issue around private business supporting NPOs as well, why would you say this is important? Oftentimes you will hear people pointing to government to implement such initiatives.
I think private partnerships are pretty critical in our economy these days. And latching on to what Revel says, they can't do it on their own as NPOs. And I think the funding from corporate business is pretty critical. And just linking it back to the learning and development and the awareness, if we as corporate citizens and leading organizations with heart understand where we can make a pivotal difference, it's critical. Revel and the Modern Community Foundation understand where the needs are in the community. Us sitting at the helm in corporate organizations don't know where the needs are specifically. They have a database that specifies an unemployed individual with a specific disability in a specific community, and that's where we can make a difference. And I think from my side, what I've seen from Modern Community Foundation is partnering with such organizations is critical in the sense that the funding is very limited for NPOs, and I think that's where business in the private sector really plays a part.
Revel, the IME conference, speak to us about how people can get involved, and also, what do you hope participants will get out of this conference?
So first of all, what I hope participants will get out of this conference is knowing that you're not alone, is understanding that there are leaders like Reece and Rennies BCD Travel, who's a subsidiary of Bid Travel Holdings, that they will hold our hand. They will incorporate you into corporate South Africa, where you as an individual from the LGBT community or a differently able individual can contribute actively towards the economy and the GDP as large. And for us as Modern Community Foundation, we're striving to make sure that we create safe, belonging spaces, exactly with what we played during the ad. You look at Uganda, you look at Ghana. We do not wish to have that happen in our country. That is why it is pivotal for corporates to come together, speak to us, speak to other organizations. Let us all work together, because if you look at what the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal says, and specifically SDG 17, it speaks of partnership for the goals. We cannot do it alone. That is why we partner with the likes of Rennies BCD Travel to ensure that we create reduced inequalities, which is SDG 10, right? And therefore, you have decent work and economic growth, which is SDG 8. And therefore, you will have high retention within your staff, especially for these two marginalized communities.
And Revel, we have run out of time, but very quickly, how do people gain access to the conference?
So people
when is it happening as well? Yeah.
So the conference is happening on the 15th of April at the Marriott Melrose Arch Hotel. People can get in touch with us at hello@mcfoundation.org.za, and we will give you more information there.